Okay, today's plan is to continue on with work on the neck, primarily plugging and re-drilling the tuner holes in the peg head. The redness you see on my face is it's a chemical burn courtesy of my dermatologist, and I hope it's not too distracting. I've been an amateur woodworker most of my life. In fact, my dad was pretty good at it too. But comparing this luthier work to woodworking is a little bit like comparing a watchmaker to an auto mechanic. They're all highly skilled people, but there's definitely a difference. So I want to take a second to give a shout out to some people who have helped me a lot. Two channels in particular. The first one is Tanya Shpachuk. In fact, she hails from Kiev, Ukraine, and I'm sure she could use our prayers. I believe she's close in to downtown there, but she has put out a lot of videos, last being a couple weeks ago. I hope she's still able to broadcast. But at any rate, a lot of good work she's done. I've seen her make some repairs on acoustics and electrics that you wouldn't think were possible. The other channel is Jerry Rosa of Rosa String Works in Missouri. Also a lot of good videos, repairs, reconstructions, refinishings, restorations, both of them excellent source. If you look at either one of those channels, if you're looking for some tutelage or guidance, they would be very helpful to you. I'll try to put some links in comments or in some banners somewhere so you can look those up. But they would be very helpful. They have been to me, and I highly recommend them. I'm going to put up a series of stills of before and after shots of some of the repairs and the restorations we've had to do to the various parts of the guitar to date. Okay, now as we take a look at this this peg head, I'm gonna show you some of the issues that we're facing and how we need to go about correcting them. And I'm gonna move the camera down now so you can see a little better. Okay, of course, this is the peg head, and as you recall, maybe in some earlier photos you might have seen the damage that was done by re-drilling and refitting a replacement peg head. Now obviously these holes are considerably larger than the pegs, and that causes a problem. When we put all the tension of the springs on the tuners themselves, it causes a lot of force on this. So we need to make sure that these screw hole or these drilled holes are tight. And what we're going to do is we're going to drill these, plug them, and then re-drill them, similar to the way we did the bridge in a previous video. So let's take a look at some of the issues that I see here with this peg head. First is obvious. The holes are completely wobbled out because of a double drilling. Even the internal rib, the inside, the center rib in the tuning, the peg head has been drilled out, and there's no support for the peg itself. Now, the peg tuner itself, this end of the tuning peg is obviously fixed in the steel plate, so this end of the tuning peg is not going to wobble. But this end has no support whatsoever, except as it rests in the center hole is the only support. But those holes are completely wobbled out. so they aren't going to offer any support to this end of the peg. So that when we put 60 or 70 pounds of stress on these pegs, they're going to want to bend, and that's going to cause issues. So we address that issue by redrilling and plugging these holes and restoring them to the same diameter as the pins themselves, so that particularly on the inside, they have some bearing surface to hold on to this end of the pin. You may have seen me drilling plugs before, but it's a fairly simple process. You have a plug drill. We drill into the wood. It creates a plug. We take the plug out, and we have a little plug to drill into a comparable size hole in the peg head. Now, there's two things that we need to consider about this. First of all, I rarely use wooden dowels to plug holes, because when you do that, you're using an end grain. And what I mean by that, if we're to use a dowel such as this is a longitudinal grain. So if we make a plug out of this and then have to drill a center out or put a screw in the end of this to fill a hole, we're screwing into or drilling into an end grain, and that does not offer as much support as drilling into a cross grain. This would be the end grain. We drill into through the side, we're drilling into a cross grain. That does two things. It gives us greater stability of the plug, but it also gives us a chance to work with a cross grain when we're kind of finishing and cleaning. You'll know that if you don't get the same finish on an end grain as you do on a side grain or a cross grain of a piece of wood. So we have a better chance of matching the finish on an end grain plug with the parent material than we would if we used an end grain such as a dowel. So I don't generally use dowels to plug holes. I always make plugs, cross grain plugs. Another concern that I have is the type of material that I use to plug, particularly the center rib here, because that's where all of the force is going to be pulling, the string is going to be pulling on. So what I want to do is I want to use a hardwood plug in the center. I don't have to worry so much. I can use a softer wood in this outside because it has its own support in the steel plate. But in here, there is no steel plate, and a hardwood plug is more apt to bear up well against not only the weight that the tuner puts on the when we put tension on the string. There's a lot of weight there, but also there's vibration, a lot of vibration in the string. So we want to put a heavier duty plug in this center section. So I'm using red oak plugs in the center section, which is a very much harder wood, and I'm using a poplar plug in the outside, which is not quite so hard. All of these plugs here will obviously be covered by the tuner plate itself, so that we don't have to worry too much about cosmetics, but we do need a good tight fit and an integral fit here, so that when we finish this off, it'll look like we were never there. Now here's another thing we need to consider. Obviously, when we drill a hole, if we're not careful, we see what happens. We get a lot of blowout on the back side, which is normal for any drill bit. That's just the way that works. So what we need to do, we need to combat that problem, because if you look inside, if we drill these holes out after the pegs have been replaced, after the plugs have been installed, we have to re-drill each one. And when we do that, we will be able to see inside of here. From the outside of the guitar, we can look in and see that. So we don't want to see any blown out holes in here. So we have to make allowances to back those holes up before we re-drill them, so we don't get any blowout and don't have to deal with this appearance on the finished guitar. So we accomplish that by putting a backup plate inside in such a way. We'll fasten that inside of there so that when we drill this hole, the blowout will occur on the filler strip, not on the guitar neck itself. Accuracy of the drilled holes is also extremely important. So we have to be very careful to make sure that when we re-drill the hole to put the wooden bushings in to restore this damage, we have to make certain that this drilled hole is exactly perpendicular this way and in line this way. And that means we have to have a good drill bit. I'm going to be using what's called a brad point bit. I hope you can see that brad point on there. It helps hold the center of the hole and does a little better job of straightening. Now, since accuracy is so important in this process, I want to give you another little tip that I've learned. I'm going to show you, I don't know if you can zoom in on this, if you can see the raised letters right here in the end of the drill bit. It's stamped, the size of the drill bit is stamped into the face of the circumference of that drill. Now, sometimes what happens when they stamp that, they displace the metal and the metal raises up. So that's not completely flat around there. And if you chuck that up in a drill bit, in a drill chuck, because that throws the center off a little bit, one of these lands under the jaw of the chuck, it throws the drill bit off of center only slightly. But sometimes it can be more than you think, and you may get a 32nd of an inch of wobble in the end of the drill. So what I try to do is I try to always take a file and very gently file that raised portion off of the surface of the drill bit, so that when we chuck the drill up, it's running as true as it can be in the drill chuck itself. So that because any part of this that's off center translates into a wobble in the end of the drill bit that looks like this. Even on a microscopic level, 15 or 20 thousandths of an inch is all it takes to make this hole bigger in diameter than the plug. And you can fill that with glue, but what happens is you end up with an obvious joint there that shows up in your finished work. There is one more small bit of information I wanted to give you regarding your plug cutters, if and when you get around to cutting your plugs. If you keep these very clean, after drilling 2 or 3 plugs, brush them off, take a wire brush, clean them and brush them off. I use this product as well. It's from Blaster. It's called Dry Lube, and I spray the cutter head. It keeps stuff from sticking to it, and it helps speed the cutter through without the plug getting stuck inside the cutter. I owe these people nothing. They don't know I exist, but I do like this product, and if it helps you in any way, I encourage you to give it a try. You've probably heard it said, most people have heard it said, that the answer to every question or problem or situation can be found in Scripture. And I believe that's true. And I was reading in Malachi today, and Malachi encourages us to always be 100% Give everything you have, everything you can possibly give to fulfill your faith to Almighty God. And if we do that, he says, we will be his. Well, I believe that probably translates into everyday life as well. If we do this the very best we can do it, whatever it is, whatever witnessing we can do, or whatever project or guitar repair that we do the absolute best we can do. That is a gift to God, and a gift that he gives us the ability to do it. So I believe that there's a parallel there, and I like to think that that would help you too. Okay, now here's my method for trying to mitigate the blowout that's going to happen when we drill out the peg head. If you look carefully, you can see the backer plate that I've put in there, and I've just taken some tapered shims and pushed them in from both sides and wedged it up against the surface that has the potential for blowing out. Then I'll get it set up in the drill press, and the next shot will show you the drilling process. We need to be careful now so that we do not drill through the center. We have to come up short. I'm trying to show you that angle. We have to come up short of drilling through the center rib, because if you look, this angle is not the same as this angle. So we have to be perpendicular this way. And if we are perpendicular this way, when we come through, you can see we're definitely not perpendicular this way. So we got to drill from both sides into the center. Okay, I wanted to show you, sorry about that, I wanted to show you how I go about ensuring that the table and the drill bit are exactly perpendicular, because after all, that's what we need to produce, the kind of hole we need to produce in the head for the tuning peg. So I've got this little digital battery operated digital display here. I don't know how long I've had this, but I probably didn't pay more than $10 for it. But as you can see, it's registering 0 degrees. And if I take it off now and rotate it up and I clamp it onto the side of the chuck, let me get you up here to the side of the chuck. If you zoom in on that, you can see it says 89.7 degrees. So I know that I'm within 89.75 even now, it says. So I know that I'm quite close to vertical. I'm within 0.3 of 1 degree of being absolutely vertical. Okay, so now in the same way, we've clamped the peg head in the vise, set it on the table. We now know that according to the scale, the peg head is dead flat, left and right. We know that the table was, and we know that the drill bit is square with the work that we intend to drill. Now we can double check that. If you don't have a digital gauge, you can do it the old-fashioned way. There's the squareness of the square. We can see that the drill bit is square with the drilling surface. I'm going to drill the top peg hole first. It's the least damaged, and it should only require 1 pass. So we're going to lower it's not critical that these holes are exactly centered on the old holes, because when we put in the pegs, the old holes are going to disappear. So we're not terribly concerned about front to back, left or right, as long as we cover the hole with the peg. We'll re-drill it on center, and if we're off a little bit visually, this plate that holds the tuner knobs is going to cover all of this up. So we're just going to try to align by sight here and drill down through. And remember, this is only going halfway through the center rib. Drill nice and easy. We've just gone through our backer plate. We're going down into the center of the guitar, and we stop. And there we have the first hole. Now we can see the progress. Maybe I can show you at a little better angle. The first hole. The next two holes will have to be drilled twice. We'll drill one hole to the left here, and this may actually require three, so we'll have to drill, I think we'll drill first to the left, then to the right, first to the right, then to the left, and we may have to take a small bit and fill these old screw holes, because undoubtedly they're not stable anymore. Okay, we're ready to drill hole number 2. We're going to do the second hole now. We're going to just try to get just the edge of the hole as much as possible. And I've reset the depth gauge because the center rib is tapered and gets narrower as we go this way. So we need to be very careful not to drill too far through that center rib. Okay, we're going to go with hole number 3. Okay, if you can see, we've got all 3 of them pre-drilled for the first plug. These 2 will have to be drilled a second time, but we have to insert the plugs, glue the plugs in, let them sit overnight. We then have to trim them off flush so that the drill will not wander in the new hole. We're going to stop here. We're going to glue in these plugs, and then tomorrow in the next video we're going to take up re-drilling this side for the second hole.